Hello and welcome to today's almost daily devotional. We are in the book of Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, and we're going to start with the first chapter, and it goes like this. The Lord's word came to me. Before I created you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I made you a prophet to the nations. Ah, Lord God, I said, I don't know how to speak because I'm only a child. The Lord responded, Don't say, I'm only a child. Where I send you, you must go. What I tell you, you must say. Don't be afraid of them, because I'm with you to rescue you, declares the Lord. Then the Lord stretched out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I'm putting my words in your mouth. This very day I appoint you over nations and empires, to dig up and pull down, to destroy and demolish, to build and to plant. So this is known as Jeremiah's call story. Every prophet in the Bible gets a call story. They get a moment where God tells them that they're going to be a prophet, that they're no longer just who they were. They're now a prophet. And it happens at different points in their lives, but it happens to every prophet. There's a moment where God says, you're doing this. This is your job now. And every call story has four parts. There's the commissioning. So that's God saying, I'm making you a prophet. Bing. And then there's the objections. The prophet always says, I can't do this. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I'm not smart enough. I'm not eloquent enough. I don't speak the right words. I'm not pretty enough. Whatever it is, there's always some form of objection. And then God says, don't worry. You don't have to be any of those things because I'm going to be with you. And there's some form of a sign. In this case, it's the angel reaching down with a coal and touching Jeremiah's lips and blessing them. And it makes me think that God calls us all the time. Every one of us is called by God to do something. Now, it's obvious, when you're called into ministry like me, that's your calling. God is calling you to do that. But if your job is to do something else, to be a clerk at a grocery store, to fold mail, to whatever it is, that seems to be less obvious. You don't feel so called in those positions. And yet God calls each one of us to some form of ministry. And we have all these objections all the time that we can't do that. There's these rules that we have to follow. We can't talk about God at work or I'll get fired or whatever it is. And I wonder if we put more trust into our objections than we do into God's calling of us. See, God doesn't call us without equipping us. God doesn't call us without reassuring us that God will be with us in the midst of that calling. God does not say to you, God does not ask of you anything that God is not going to equip you to do. Now, you're not going to be able to do it on your own. God's not saying, go out there and do it on your own. God's going to go with you. And if God goes with you, then you can do anything. So maybe you aren't smart enough on your own. Maybe you aren't wise enough on your own. Maybe you aren't caring enough on your own. But if God calls you, then you can do it. Because God is going to be there with you in the midst of it. God's going to hold your hand, and it's going to be okay. So, how do we live into our identity as one who was called by God to mission and ministry? God bless.